Welcome to Makers International, a podcast of makers from around the world, talking with makers from around the world. Here's Jamie Page, Steve Twidell, Chris Cute, and now your host, Richard Morley.
Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, and wherever you are listening. Join with me, as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
Hello?
So you can do what you like, because you're the one editing it, Mr.
I'm just kind of scared to be here.
Hello.
Obviously, I'm here, but also we have three amazing guests with us this evening. First of all, we have Heidi Jacobs from Slap Stuff Together. We have
hello.
Lovely Mackenzie. We have the very lovely Mackenzie Rouleau.
Hello.
And also, but need I say more? Kat's here. Well, I better say something nice because you'll slap me otherwise. Kat's here as well.
Hi.
Hippynoodle, what's up?
As always, I'm going to do some very, very quick shout outs and thank yous. And as normal, they're going to be for our live audience that are listening live. So we have just not all of them. I'm sure I missed some people. Wayne the Woodturner, Anna Beats Workshop, Andy Pugh, David Woodbarber, AH Bespoke, and hang on. How is Heidi in the live chat and in the live room? And like, is that actually Heidi? Is there like a double Heidi? Is that something like?
Oh, I'm Heidi squared. I'm everywhere, baby.
Right, that's it. Mind blown. I think, right. So, as always, this evening's podcast is brought to you in part by Yorkshire Grit, the Woodturners Abrasive Paste, our good friend Chad over at Man Crafting, and also Pam over at Highland Boxes. I'm just going to brush over the whole thing with Heidi because that's just far too confusing for me. As always, Chris, do we have a random list of questions? Just rescue me, please.
Well, by the way, if you're interested in our sponsors, they can be found on our webpage, which is www.makersinternationalpodcast.com, and Jamie takes care of that. Absolutely. Don't you, Jamie?
That's Heidi, that was your fault. Completely.
Yeah. I do have a question.
I take the credit for every failure. It's absolutely fine.
Oh, well, success is not common with us anyway, Heidi, so this is fine. Hey, there's no way to screw this up because it starts there. For people that may not be familiar, before we get to the question, Richard, if I could I go around our guests today and let them introduce themselves and let people know what they individually do as part of the maker sphere of the world. So, or at least what they primarily do, because I mean, these women are multi-talented in different areas, but primarily they're known for a single thing. So I tell you what, I'll start with Heidi, and then we can go to Mackenzie, and then Kat, if you want to wrap it up, and then we'll get to the question. So Heidi, let people know who you are and what you do, and we'll move on.
Sure. I'm Heidi Jacobs. I'm one half of Slap Stuff Together. I primarily am a potter. I mostly do wholesale mugs for gift shop markets, but I'm active in the community doing custom mugs for other makers.
Awesome. Mackenzie, you do all kinds of stuff, I know, but what do you primarily kind of veer to?
Wood turning, and baking. I don't know what I do. I've been doing a lot of segmented turning, combining different ideas into that, playing around with that. And I think that's it.
And people that don't know, Mackenzie works out of Hillview Wooden Metal, which is what Tony's known as. And I mean, you don't do YouTube or anything like that either, do you?
No.
Okay, but she's very much involved in the community, and we see you. And I'm not on Instagram, Mackenzie, so I don't know if you're active on Instagram or not. I assume
I'm more active on Instagram than probably anything else. So my Instagram name is Mackaroo, Mackarou. So I kind of post a little bit of anything that interests me on there. I haven't been super active as of lately, but that's mostly where I am, I guess. I don't do YouTube or anything like that.
Okay. All right, Kat, up to you.
So I'm Hippynoodle on everything, Facebook and Instagram and all of that stuff. I'm mostly into yarn-related crafts. So I knit, I crochet, and I dye yarn too. And I sell the yarn that I dye on Etsy and in my local yarn store. And then I also like to try more or less anything else that I got the opportunity to. So a little bit of woodwork and anything that I get a chance to.
Because I've seen you in Richard's shop doing some turning on your own, by the way, and you're not so bad there.
Oh, thanks very much.
But she also does she's an awesome baker. Let's not forget that baking.
And that is making, and because
I don't do baking so much, because if I do baking, then I do eating, and then that's not good.
Oh, good. No, and I say that because I am also a baker, because my better half, spoon, fork, there's confusion with her. So I take care of that portion of my family responsibilities. Today's question, I mean, we'll pose it to our guests first, and I guess possibly in the same order if you're ready to, if you want to answer this, is given to us by our good friend, once again, Andy Pugh. Asks a very, I mean, it seems like a simple question, but it could get quite lengthy. So let's just try to, give the cliff notes if we could of our own opinion. I'll pose it to you. Andy wants to know, can creativity be taught? Is that something you can learn or no?
I think it can be, to be honest. I think it's just like any other kind of meditative practice, right? Like, it's about finding the things that spur you on. And I don't necessarily think you're born with it. I definitely think it's something that you kind of work your mind into.
Mackenzie? What you think?
I don't think it can be taught, but I think it can be discovered. Because it's personal to everybody, what your creativity is and where you gain inspiration, and at what level it's at, and how much you can tap into it. So everybody does have that potential, but some people stifle it or aren't allowed to discover it. So I think it can be, you can help someone discover what theirs is, but maybe not teach it.
Got it.
Because then it wouldn't be theirs.
No, that makes sense. Kat?
I think I'm going to buck the trend here. I don't think it can be taught, and I do think it depends what you mean by creativity. But I do think that some people are born with bucket loads of it, and some people are not. And it doesn't mean to say that person won't go on to make great things. But my experience, and I'm just drawing on my experience with my children. One is creative and one is not. And Lord knows I've tried to get him to be creative at times. It's just not in him. He's not interested and he doesn't have it. Just quickly, I'll give an example. When they were little, I'd say, let's get out the bits and pieces to make a birthday card for Grandma. And in 3 seconds flat, he'd stuck 3 bits onto a card and was outside playing. Whereas my daughter would sit for hours rearranging things until she was happy with how it looked. And that's my experience, that she has that creative kind of urge. It's taken her a long time to find her outlet for it. She has it and he doesn't, and there's no encouraging him to find it. It just isn't in him.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Richard, Jamie, I'll start this off following up from the ladies have said, because I don't disagree with much of that what you just said, because frankly I think that everybody does have creativity. I mean, if you've ever told a lie, let's face it, that's a form of creativity, because you're making something up. I mean, it's a very broad sense of creativity, I'll grant you that, but I think we all have it. I just think that some people, for whatever it may be, chemistry, whatever the case may be, some people nurture it more than other people do. I think that it's like almost gravitating towards, I enjoy this, so I'm going to learn more about it or spend more time with it type thing. And I don't know that it can be taught. I don't think that you necessarily want to teach creativity anyway. I think because each person's creativity is what makes them an individual. And the creative things that make people go, wow, is an individual creativity that makes you do that, because it's something that most people haven't thought of. It's an individual thought. But I'll let Richard or Jamie, carry on from there. I mean, that's just my opinion.
My perspective is basically, I'm going to mirror exactly what Kat said, I think. I mean, growing up in a house full of 4 people, obviously 2 parents and my sister, myself and my mum were the two that had the creative side, and my dad and my sister had nothing. She weren't interested at all. And my dad was exactly the same. When it comes to doing anything in the woodshed, the only tool my dad ever knew how to use was a hammer, and that's what he used to fix things with.
And that could have been anything, probably.
You know. Yeah. Yeah. So, but my mum, on the other hand, she, Kat and Richard have seen it. She cooks, she sews, she knits, she bakes cakes. You know, she does all sorts. You know, and that's kind of where I've kind of picked it up from. You've seen it on the scroll, so I can stand there for 30 hours. You know, my sister nor my dad can do that.
Right. I don't know if that's creativity or just the stamina and willpower to go through something that's absolutely freaking dreadful. Richard, what about you?
I don't know. I'm kind of I guess in some part I'm on the fence, but my gut feeling is, yeah, probably if you're the right sort of person to be able to teach it. And by that I mean, you know, we've all had good teachers and bad teachers. I mean, I've never met a teacher that didn't know their subject, but I've met plenty of teachers that weren't very good at getting that subject into someone else's head. But that's something else. I think ultimately it's probably something that can be learned or something that can be picked up on and expanded on. Going back to what you were saying about Ben and Chloe would spend weeks rearranging macaroni on a bit of card. Ben would spend 3 seconds and want to go and play outside. But at the same time, he'll spend hours online with his friends playing Minecraft. You know, and that in itself is a form of creativity, because although he's playing a video game, it's a video game about making stuff, you know, like whatever the things is. Yeah. So I think it very heavily depends on what it is you're creating and in what sort of medium, whether it's, you know, in video games or out of wood or out of clay or cooking ingredients or yarn or whatever. It doesn't really matter. So I think it's a difficult question to answer definitively. I think probably yes and no, but it's going to be subjective.
It is, and I don't want to belabor this any more than we have to, but I had a thought. I mean, is it possible that creativity and artistry are very closely aligned in that? Because like the example you gave, Kat, your daughter is obviously very artistic because she took the time and wanted to make sure it was right, but your son was just kind of like, that's what I saw in my mind, I did it, and I'm outside playing. I mean, are we relating creativity to being an artist? Or I mean, what's the level? How are you judging that? I don't want to throw this out there and make a long conversation out of it, but I think it's a close question. Is it artistry or is it creativity, or are they the same thing?
Not the same.
They're not the same.
Okay.
I wonder ultimately.
Well, I thought it bared asking anyway. I mean, I kind of agree with you, but I thought the question deserved asking.
I mean, you've just kind of almost provided me with the perfect segue there, Chris. I wonder if it's not potentially a gender thing, actually. And I'm not saying that because obviously the topic that we're going to then go into, but it's kind of a boy thing, isn't it? Go make this card. And some boys are like, I don't want to make a card, I want to go and play football. And it doesn't matter whether it's a card or go and do the washing up. I don't want to do the washing up, I want to go and play football or go and play. A boy generally, well, speaking from my own experience, when I was a boy, it was like, yeah, okay, bare minimum effort, get the job done. That means I can go and do the thing I want to do quicker, and to hell with whether I've got to come back and redo it or not.
I don't know that it's well, you know what? Let me kind of find out who I want to hang up on here real quick. Hold on.
So I genuinely wonder whether it's a gender thing, whereas the girls will be like, okay, yeah, let's get into this and let's do this, and just think about the one focus thing that's there in front of them.
I remember when the kids started school, I was told by one of the infant school teachers that in their experience as teachers, they mostly found, and again, this is a gender stereotype, but they mostly found that boys were not interested in writing unless it was for a practical reason. Girls are quite happy to pick up a pencil and learn how to form the letters neatly. Boys are only interested in writing if it's to make a list of what they need to pick up from the store or
right.
Yeah.
And as we get into this, I want to caution us. I mean, all of us to avoid, the generalizations, because there obviously are boys who would enjoy writing, but they just don't seem to be in the majority. Much like there are girls who would much rather go play football than sit there and make that stupid freaking card, which makes our conversation today real easy. So let me ask the question. And ladies, if you'll give us a second, I want to throw this around to the guys first, because I want to get their perspective, and then I want to hear what you have to say to see if we need an education.
Mr. Cute, excuse me.
Well, Mr. Morley,
first.
No, we're going to do it this way, because I think it makes sense that the gentlemen in the room kind of give what they think is the deal, and then the women kind of let us know if we're on par or if we're possibly missing a beat somewhere. Richard, I mean, how else are you going to learn?
Okay, no, I'll go with that. Okay, I'll just rephrase that. Sorry, Trickle, you're after me.
Oh, God. Okay, the question today is, because tomorrow in the United States anyway is Women's Equality Day, and it's a day that's celebrated to, not only promote where women have come from and where they are today, but to also look at where things can still go, because there's some work that could still be done there. So my question was, it was completely related to not the entire world, it's to this community, the community that we call the maker community. And, there's going to be fringe elements to it, I'm sure. But the question, gentlemen, is, and Richard, I'll address it to you first, since you're the one that wants to be, an asshole. Are women being treated completely equal in this maker community? In your opinion, as you look across the board, and this requires a generalization, I understand, but I mean, do you feel that the women are given the same respect, whatever you want to call it, that the guys are? That, because honestly, I mean, in some fields, they have been since eons past. Our grandfathers would say, that's man's work. It's not women's. But then we've got women doing this stuff now. I mean, it's like Rosie the Riveter in World War II decided to dispel that freaking thing. But so my question is, do you think that we are treating women fairly across the board within the maker community? I mean, your outside input, because we're outsiders looking in on this one.
Right. Okay. I mean, obviously, I can't take this opportunity for such a pun and not make it. So I'm going to apologise to the ladies. But you give them the vote. You're asking for it at the end of the day. But obviously, I'm joking. In all seriousness, I haven't firsthand personally seen or witnessed any situations where anybody, regardless of gender, was treated differently to anyone else. I think more probably the younger people are probably given slightly different treatment, but only in so much as you would treat a child slightly differently to an adult. So just to get that out there first off. But I have seen, and I don't actually disagree with this, so don't get me wrong, I have actually seen some individuals maybe, I don't want to say play on or take advantage. People are going to misconstrue that, but I think to use certain aspects to themselves and their own skills, have taken an advantage of them and used them to their advantage in a good way. And I've not got a problem with that whatsoever. But no, I don't think I've seen them be treated differently by anyone else.
Jamie, what about you?
I think some females do get hated on a little bit more. For argument's sake, posting a picture and it getting 100,000 likes, or a certain video getting a million views just because they're wearing a certain item of clothing, or why should that matter?
So you're talking about the inequality would actually be, well, no, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, because I mean, I don't care how you say that. It's just not right.
It's some of them do use it to their advantage, and again, just like Richard says, doesn't bother me. At the end of the day, I'm in YouTube for fun but some people do take it to heart when they're putting out almost the exact same videos. And let's say, for example, I was to put out a bowl video, and such was female was put out a such and such bowl video, but they were doing it in a tight t-shirt. Well, that video is going to get 1 million views. Mine isn't.
Nobody wants to see you in tight.
Some people will get offended by that.
Well, I would get offended with you in a tight t-shirt. Yes.
Well, unfortunately, Richard, it's coming, so get used to it. I want them views.
But what you're basically pointing out, Jamie, and I could be wrong, and I'm anxious to hear what the ladies have to say about this, is that you actually are saying that there is a difference in how people view.
There is a difference.
Women and men,
and it is wrong.
And some guys, or maybe even women, because I mean, hey, it's 2019, maybe watching someone for a reason, or maybe watching someone to see how to do something, or because they're interested in the project. What you're telling me is people that are in that frame of mind aren't interested in what's being made. You're interested in who is making it.
They're interested in the arse that's making it.
So they're taking. I mean, so there is inequality in that sense when it comes to how we view women in the maker world.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that's wrong. And that's basically, he took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say pretty much the same thing, because I know some women, and we have 3 of them sitting here with us today that do awesome work. And look, maybe it's because I'm old and I'm married, but I don't watch videos of women to see the women. I watch videos that women do their projects for the most part. At least I try to. I'm not checking out the chick. I'm checking out what she's doing. I want to see what she's doing, but there are guys out there that aren't like me, and I think that's probably where a lot of the angst from the female portion may come from. I don't know, and I'll try to
build a little bit on what Jamie was saying, because there's a downside to the reaction of men who are feeling like they're not getting the attention that they deserve because of women who maybe are cute and they're not dressing provocatively at all. Right. They're just kind of nice to look at, but also have amazing content. So I've seen a couple of times where it's been posted in our own community, like, men, get your ladies in front of the camera, you do the work and let the ladies do it, because that's all these women are doing. And then they posted like 6 different makers who I know personally work their butts off to get to where they are. And it was just so infuriating to see that come within our own community, where someone's like, these women don't deserve this. These women are just eye candy. And then some guy is in the background doing all the work. You're just not seeing it because he's not going to get all the likes. So it's like really frustrating because, on one hand, there is a lot of TNA content that is getting clickbait, right? Yeah. But there's a lot of really great women makers that aren't actually getting credit for the work that they're doing.
Well, you know what? I only want to interject this in one way, because I think that primarily the male problem with what you're talking about right now is a lot more prominent but there's an aspect to the females that actually watch guys for the same reason. I think it's a smaller percentage. And I'm not saying that we're equal there, because I'm not trying to make the argument that there's no inequality here. I'm just saying that crosses both genders, okay, but to different extents. Anyway, Mackenzie, Jamie said this, and I'm hesitant to say this earlier, but you do a lot of what used to be traditionally back in Grandpa's day. You're making, when you're on the lathe or you're doing things with Tony, you're kind of inserting yourself into what was always known as the man's world as far as what's supposed to be done. But you do it today. Have you ever gotten any kickback from the community or do you think you've been given more of a pass, less of a pass, more respect, less of respect? I mean, what's your feeling on that? I mean, because
this is a major issue with me.
Okay.
I don't know how to gauge feedback for myself. I mean, I haven't put a ton of stuff out there, but it's real hard in my specific situation because of Tony. Not because of him as a person or anything, but he's got such a solid like reputation and thing going on that I don't know if this is my skewed perspective, if there's a certain amount of this, but you know, we started out equal where, you know, he was doing little things and I was doing little things, and we met and were attracted and to that with each other, and then his tools took off, and I'm not taking away from those, but all of a sudden, you know, playing around in the shop kind of stopped for him. And so he's been really focused on that and the tools, and I'm still playing around. And, you know, I've been like building on my ideas and vision of my different projects and stuff, but it's really hard. I feel like I get a lot of, you know, that's cute that she's doing it too. And or that people might feel like I'm like, oh wow, he's doing great, so I'm going to try this too. And that's just not a thing. That is not at all a thing. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if people really support me for me and what I'm doing. I don't know if there's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes, but like, or if I'm just being paranoid. I don't know if it's all mixed together. But as a woman in this kind of like maker world where you're right, like, you know, that wood turning and stuff has been a, you know, an old man's thing. I know that is pushing things a little bit, but I also don't really have like a pure perspective. Like, here I am, this rando person that just walked into it, because I have that other part of it where I have my husband who is so like amazing and has his, you know, place in it. So I don't know if I'm making any sense.
No, I think you are.
I know exactly what you're saying there, Mackenzie. I can relate.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I have a very, I just have a different perspective, and I find that a little frustrating too, because I'd like to know, like, black and white, what it would be nice if I could tell, like, is this getting embraced, or is it if I'm just not the right person to be able to tell that. So.
I think you're absolutely the right person. I think we're all the right people. I don't care what gender you are or what, you know, your sexual preference is. If you're doing something and you're doing it and it's awesome, it's friggin' awesome. I don't care who you are. You could be the purple, you know, the purple polka dotted guy from, you know, Uranus, and I would still, if you're doing cool stuff, I want to see it.
I always like the idea of like, the way that you're found isn't necessarily the reason that people stick with you, right?
That's a good, that's a good way to think of it. That's a good way to think of it. I don't know. My perspective on this is there's a lot of subtleties. There's a lot of subtleties that are different. When you come into this world where it's been predominantly men, it still kind of is. I've never run into anybody being rude or flat out, you know, obnoxious, but there's subtleties in it. And it's, as a woman, I feel like you have to prove yourself a little more, and stand out a little more.
Kat, what do you think?
Cute.
Yeah, I mean, I can relate to what you're saying there, Mackenzie. I haven't ever experienced any overt inequality, and in general, again, I'm generalizing, but my field is thought of as being a woman's craft, even though if you go back far enough, it was the men that always knitted. So as a woman in the knitting community, there's nothing that makes me stand out. And it wasn't until the first Makers Central that I realized there was a whole makers community that I was also part of. The interesting thing about that was that I was invisible. And I think 95% of the people that I met that first year thought that I was basically just Richard's bag carrier.
Yeah.
That I was a maker in my own right. So
right.
I was, like you say, it's very subtle, but I was actually spoken through as though I wasn't there a couple of times. And I don't know if that has anything to do with me being female or whether it's just that Richard's well known and I'm not. it could have made no difference at all what my gender was. But when you're in that sort of social situation, and someone sort of turns their back on you as though you don't exist because you're just not important in the room full of other very important makers,
that assumption is made.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you think that's not necessarily, though, a fair assumption based purely on kind of the numbers game, as it were? I mean, how many other halves of makers, irrespective of gender, one or the other, are? I mean, how many couples where one person is in the maker, I say the maker community, but is attending something like Maker Central?
There's 3 right there. We're
but
at
how
a
many
makers
people?
convention, so why would it be fair to assume I wasn't a maker?
Yeah, that's a good point. But what I meant was how many couples that were there. I mean, yeah. So there was. Well, Heidi, you were on your own, weren't you? So, but potentially it could have been you and Ben, Mackenzie and Tony were there, and we were both there. But that's 2 couples. But out of all the couples that were there, I don't know how many thousands of people turned up, and how many of those were turned up as couples. But how many of those couples were both makers? I'm not trying to make excuses one way or another. I'm just trying to sort of put it in context.
But then, regardless of what assumptions you may or may not make, that's pretty rude to make that assumption without actually getting to know the person.
I think
yes, that's
the only
ultimately
assumption that should be made is that the people that are at that events like that are both interested, and whether that's the assumption that should be made. And it, especially in like traditional woodworking, the assumption, if I were more well known than Tony, say, and we went to like a wood thing or whatever, a tool show or something, and I were a little more well known than him, I think the segue into assuming he's interested and is there and is part of it, that's a little softer than what you have experienced and what I've experienced, where it's like done. It's a lot more. There's a wall that's put up a lot faster.
It's automatic. So what you're saying, Mackenzie, is that if let's say you were the popular person that everybody knew, and Tony was just with you, there's a quicker assumption on most people's part to say, "Oh, well, he must be in this as well."
Right.
Whereas if as Tony is the more popular person and you're there, you're looked at as, "Oh, that's just his wife. She's here with him." As opposed to being taken, the assumption is different. I get you. Okay.
Here's a question for you ladies. When you go to a store, like a predominantly male-run store, like a hardware store or a wood shop, like Woodcraft or something, and you're with your spouse, who does the associate talk to first?
Spouse every time.
My spouse every time. And if I have a question, they're not looking at me. They're not
going on your own. It's like when Penny goes into the comic store in The Big Bang Theory.
Well, let me ask you a question, because
we have to walk separate.
I get that. And I'm not surprised by that at all, by the way. But I'm wondering if you can put that down to that person's intention, or if you're looking at the time that has built up since Grandpa that still hasn't worn off yet. I mean, how do you view that? I mean, I don't want to say that it's, hey, maybe in some cases, I'm sure it is an intentional thing. But in other cases, I think it's just the way that people have been brainwashed throughout the years to say, the guy's inside Woodcraft and he just brought his wife with him. There is that assumption that the guy must be the dude who's here, because there are relatively few women even today that are involved with this community. And so I think
for sure.
I'm not saying excuse it. I'm just saying, does that help explain it, or do you think that helps explain that?
No, that absolutely explains it. But we're here being asked if there's a difference, and there is.
Gotcha.
Like that absolutely explains it. But yeah, it goes on all the time. I think if anybody want any advice that were in this as industry in the sales part of it, moving forward, in order to avoid assumptions, their question should be, are you familiar with? It's a good are you familiar with how this particular tool works? Are you, that way they can find out whether that man or that woman, is completely new to this, or they know certain parts, and that should be something that's always asked to both. Going, if anybody were listening that wanted that advice, that's probably not.
No, it just reminds me of a little picture that I see every now and then pop up on Facebook where, there's a guy walking through Home Depot and the guy walks up and says, "Can I help you?" And the guy turns and looks at him and says, "I know more than you." So it's like that's just kind of the scenario because let's be honest, you go into a big box store, you three ladies, depending on which kind of craft you're into, if you go into that store and some guy walks up and goes, "Can I help you?" You just look at them and you go, "I know more than you. Go away." It's like, but the assumption isn't made there.
If you work in sales these days, you can't make assumptions, and I say that because a lot of my job is based on sales. Once upon a time, you used to be able to assume that when children came in for an appointment, that the person that was with them was probably their parent and probably had the same name as them. You can't make those assumptions anymore. Families are more diverse than that. And we must all bring ourselves around to if we're in sales, to be thinking along the lines of, I can no longer take one look at you and make a judgment.
Right.
I need to be more open-minded than that.
I brought that up because I kind of ran into this at a show one time, and it wasn't bad, but there was definitely a little bit that went on, and I'm like, stop. And then Tony walked up behind me, and all of a sudden, it was a smarter talk, and it was frustrating because I had some questions and they weren't getting answered. And then all of a sudden he came up and it was a smarter, more open, discussion. And I was like, I don't want that to happen. And I don't want to think that it does, but it did in that situation. And I don't know, that seemed relevant to this conversation, but.
No, it is. I think it is. Let me ask the overall question. And because I'm assuming, and I'm ready to be corrected, but I'm going to assume that the maker community that we're currently in does not have the hangups that other communities do regarding this. Is that a correct assumption? I'm not saying there's not issues, and you guys have brought up some excellent ones. I'm just saying there are other communities that are much more gender biased than what we are here. Am I wrong there? Or is it pretty much, in your opinion, the same across the board? I don't want to be wrong, but I'm really hoping I'm not wrong. But if I am, tell me, because I think we've got some work to do. That's why we're doing the show today, is because we want to bring this to light.
Yeah, see, I'm going to take the opportunity, being since nobody else has jumped in, I'm going to take the opportunity here, Chris, and say I think you need to define who you sort of include in that community. Now, to my mind, in my head, as a very rough definition, I am thinking of people who I kind of met at Maker Central, or I've met in these kind of situations online in Hangouts, and the people that sort of basically stick their head above the parapet, either in the kind of the more niche groups on Facebook, of which there are loads, whether it is wood turning or just interested in tools or whatever, and that kind of thing. But you've got to, I think, include the wider population, because if you look at, pick a name of a successful channel that you watch who makes things, they're getting 2, 3, 4, 500,000 views on a video. That's not coming from those kind of people that I've already mentioned. That's coming from the wider global population.
Right.
Now, and if you start to include, so in order to define that smaller group that I just mentioned, I don't think there's a massive problem. Probably there's a few people in there that are either keeping their heads down or not saying much, if anything, but there probably is, because that's, society.
No, I got you.
If you
no, you're
start
right.
to then go out to the wider group, then it's a massive problem, just like it is in any industry.
You're right. It's like defining. It's like saying, if you have a job beyond making, if you have a workplace that you go to, it's like saying, compared to the maker community that we know, and comparing that to your work environment, I mean, that's a different scenario. You're right, Richard. It's a much wider world.
The only reason I bring that up is I a couple of minutes ago I did a quick YouTube search, and it was literally women woodworking, and I was trying to find a particular channel. I actually couldn't find it, but it was akin to the old Formula One pit girls or the Makita girls, or the car wash from the 70s. It was that kind of basically a woodworking channel. Car wash in the 70s, barely held in by a Makita, what's the word? The swimming costume.
A bikini,
thing,
right?
Doing woodworking.
Bikini.
It's like, how is this even allowed before the watershed kind of a channel? And there were multiple. And there's there's kind of a bit. I find it a bit kind of weird. I don't agree.
Well, that is. I mean, but that's like Heidi was talking about before. That's just. I mean, it is weird, and that's what Heidi was talking about before. There are those clickbait videos like that out there, and that's what they are. They're clickbait videos. I'm talking about the people that are serious about what they're doing.
I bet the safety police had a field day.
I wonder how many women woodworkers there are out there who are tempted to use their feminine wiles to up their views or subscriber numbers when they're struggling, where another channel is getting loads. They might think, I'll try a bit of that. I'll try a slightly tighter t-shirt and see if it helps.
So I did a search one time on Instagram because I was looking for tags, and I did a search of like women wood turning, women woodworker, like that kind of stuff. And I thought, I'll tag with that and jump on that. And I was expecting to find not a whole huge diverse amount of people, but something, like I figured I'm here, so there's others. And at that time, there was maybe one other woman, maybe two that were fairly normal looking, and then it was just like that weird, like not a thing with the clothes and the bikinis and the like, what is happening? And it really made me feel, I don't know, not very happy.
Does that piss you off? I mean,
I find it annoying.
Well, okay. Piss off was probably wrong, but annoying, because they're creating a stereotype that is embracing the behavior that you're basically saying today is what's not good. I mean, but they're okay.
I don't need to be lumped into that tag, because I hate being lumped into a stereotype. But at the same time, I mean, I was kind of hoping to find me, or some version of me, or Heidi, or Kat, or somebody, or like Barbie the welder, like somebody like that was like a person to be a part of, part of that whole thing. And I didn't. It was very fractured or strange, and it just seems like I'm not the only person. There's a lot of people, and we're just like quietly doing our thing, but I don't know.
Because we're not using the tags of women woodworking or girls with tools or feminists, any kind of tags like that. We're not using them. I'm using tags that are actually related to what I'm doing. And completely, my gender doesn't come into my brain at all when I'm thinking of hashtags.
Yeah, not me either. I didn't, not that it's bad, but I don't know. Part of me wishes that was there, and then part of me is like, who cares?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I think respect. I think respect is respect, and respect should be given equally. And if it's not being given equally, then we've got a problem. And like I said, I don't know that this is the worst community. But I can't give you a reference to a community similar to this one, because this is the only one I know. But I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm just saying I see a lot of acceptance in this community, but I also understand that there are biases, and I can see some guys who are speaking, like Richard mentioned, that didn't want to stick their head above the parapet to say things that and privately they do say, but they don't say in public, which makes it wrong. But I would like I guess it's more of a hope than a reality, but I would hope that this wouldn't be an issue at this point in time. But apparently, to some extent, it still is. And that's sad. And that makes me sad. I'm sorry. It does.
Let me make you a little happy, because I think what we're seeing across the board in the trades, in wood turning, I mean, you've got Caitlin, who, I mean, how old's Caitlin? Caitlin, how old are you?
She's got to be like 14.
14.
She picked on
Caitlin's actually in the chat.
his,
So, Caitlin, how old are you?
yeah, how old are you? Type it out, Caitlin. I am finding a lot of hope. As much as I'm frustrated by the things that are like have consistently been there through the age of all time,
Right.
like, and still have needs and desires that they click on because they want to see pretty pictures of, you know, TNA or whatever. There are still people that are interested in what I'm doing and what Mackenzie's doing and what Kat's doing. So Caitlin's 14. She fell into wood turning, caught the fire, loves it, shares her journey, and is exciting. And other girls her age can now see her doing that and can now get excited to do something maybe that was only geared towards boys in shop class. You know, back in the day when I was in school, it wasn't like anything was encouraged for a girl to go into the wood shop unless, you know, you were one of the boys. And that's kind of like the other thing that I kind of wanted to understand from the other lady's perspective here. Do you feel pressure to play like a boy when you're doing these boyish activities, or like what society would label as boy activities?
No, personally speaking, no, I don't. I just do my thing, and that's it.
It makes me wonder whether, like, I mean, going back to that channel I mentioned, I'll call it the bikini channel, because I honestly can't remember what the channel was called or whatever. But you get that sort of channel. I wonder actually whether it's a very short-term thing, because
Oh, yeah. I bet it is.
how sustainable is that as a channel from the point of view of the person doing it, and, you know, ticking clocks and all the rest of it.
It would depend on how horny their subscribers were.
I'm kind of thinking more along the lines of, you know, because we don't actually necessarily know about the channel. Is it somebody, you know, is it actually that person? Is it their channel? Is that what they do, in the same way as, you know, we all have our channels and it's what we do? Or is it somebody who is the face of a particular channel, which might be one of numerous channels owned by and run by the same people? If, you know, are they just the person reading the news? And is that very short-sighted in terms of, do people actually in the long term take that kind of channel seriously? You know, the people watching that channel, do they really want to know how to, you know, put something together in wood? Or do they go to, you know, our channels, your channels, where you are, you know, just doing your thing?
I
Do
think
people take it more seriously as a result of that?
I think when it comes right down to it, ultimately, whether, you know, regardless of what they're looking for their needs and desires, I think ultimately people end up wanting just to see the project, the art, you know, that there's a lot, sometimes there's a lot to sort through. But ultimately, I think that's what people want to end up seeing. Like Chris, right out of the gate, wants to see that.
Well, you know what, Mackenzie, I think that's what gives, no matter who you are and what you do, that's what gives you staying power, is what you end up doing. But I have to ask this question, because I think this is maybe the nail on the head, and if it's not, then once again, ladies, I'm ready to be corrected. I think what we're struggling to do here is find normalcy for women in the maker community, to where it is no longer a unique thing for Mackenzie to be a wood turner, for Heidi to be a potter, or if I wanted to be a potter tomorrow, that wouldn't be weird. Or if I wanted to knit tomorrow, it wouldn't be a weird thing in Kat's community. What we're looking for and what we're trying to achieve is, and a lot of the problems we discussed today would become non-existent if people over time recognize this as being the normal, as opposed to what was once considered the normal. And we're still struggling to get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that the not normal is the normal.
Right.
You know, like, you know, it's not a big it shouldn't have been a big production that Berkey was making a quilt. it should have just been a big production that he was doing that for the first time, not that he was a guy sewing. And there was a certain amount of that went on with that. And
I hear you. No, I hear you, because that's what made him unique, though, because he was a guy doing it, which is what makes certain women unique about doing like woodworking or metalworking. It's the normalcy hasn't the playing field hasn't been leveled as far as that's gone, and because the people don't perceive it as being normal.
Yeah,
they see it as being unique.
In all honesty, it's going to be a very, very long time.
Oh, of course.
How long has it always been a bloke who was the blacksmith, or the, if you go back far enough, we're like right at the tip of the pencil.
Yeah.
Now. So,
yeah. Coming down the side, that's going to make it the eraser that's, erases all that stuff away. I just thought of that. That was good, wasn't it? That was.
But that's not to say that we shouldn't be doing.
Nobody
it,
got that.
No, somewhere.
Wait, come on, God damn it! That was clever. All right, all right, whatever. We've got to wrap this up, ladies. Do you have any final thoughts? I mean, is there anything that I don't want to turn this into a bitch session? I just want to say, what if there's anything you had to say regarding today's subject that you haven't said yet, and you just want to get off your chest. You just want to, if you could wrap it up in your own way.
I'll go run with it. I absolutely think that because of the groundbreaking people like Simone and Laura Kampf and some other people that have kind of hit a higher echelon, and of all trades, those folks are kind of groundbreakers in the maker community, proving that women can both be pretty, smart, creative, these impactful people, and give inspiration to those of us that maybe just really enjoy being in our little home studio and working and wanting to share that community with other people. So yeah, I don't feel beaten down by my sexuality or my gender equality at all in this community. I think we've definitely got some places to grow a little bit, but for the most part, like, I went to Maker Central by myself. I had an amazing time. I was treated very respectfully. I was engaged with. I was kidnapped. I was engaged with about my craft. I was engaged with about how I got into it, and I got to encourage people to try it. So like, I don't think that 50, even 20 years ago, that would have been afforded to me in the same way that it is now. So I'm hopeful.
We're making progress, at least, as it sounds like. Mackenzie, what about you, hon?
I agree that things are moving forward really well for everybody, and it's awesome to see all these kids coming back into making, and they're being supported with that in all ways that they want to. So I think it's going to change a whole lot, and I just want to say that I don't want to say that I'm not supported, because I hope I didn't come across like that, because I am.
No.
And okay. But to anybody that, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you are feeling like you're new or whatever, I know people say this a lot, but do your thing regardless. And regardless of what anybody thinks you should be doing, if you want to sew, or if you want to bake, or you want to turn wood, or you want to do something super off the wall, do it. And you might hit a little bit of roadblocks, or you might run into some douches, but you're going to find a lot of support and a lot of friends along the way if you just put yourself out there.
Pretty quickly. I'll agree with that, because I think that this community, regardless of the issues that we've pointed out today that there may be out there, I think it's a very welcoming community regardless. For possibly different reasons. And we're not going to solve this problem today, because if somebody could come down and go, bing, things change now, I guess we would do that, but it's not going to happen. It takes time for people to get there. That's all we got today. Richard, if you want to get into shout outs, that's fine with me. If you'd rather pass them up for today, it doesn't matter to me. We haven't even gotten to Jamie's yellow pages of the Maker community.
Yeah,
And so we might
you forget that.
we can't
could
forget
go
that
on for
because Jamie
days.
would never forgive me. So Jamie, please open your yellow pages of Maker community and let us know what's happening this week.
Okay, so it is Jamie's page.
Dear God, I've got to live with that every week. Go ahead.
Right, so one of the first bit of news is Brett McAfee has just hit subscribers. That was I've actually should have done that on Jamie's page last week, but
Way to go, Brett.
I only just noticed it this week. So well done, Brett.
So deserved.
As of last week, you might have heard me talk about the Maker Quilt. Now, the Maker Quilt, I'll quickly mention again, is where everyone sends Kat sitting next to Richard their t-shirt, and she's going to sew them all together and make a quilt. And then the quilt gets raffled off, and all proceeds go to Kat's chosen charity, which is the Guide Dogs.
Awesome.
Which is obviously Maker related, because that's what Chris Fisher's, that's where Chris Fisher's or the Blind Wood Turner's dog came from. So what I've gone and done is I've updated the podcast website, which is makersinternationalpodcast.com. I've updated the homepage right at the very, very top of the page, so it's easy to find all of the details of where to send your t-shirts. And you can post it on Instagram, hashtag Maker Quilt, or hashtag it on Facebook, just so we can find it.
Well, there's links in the description. Even today, there's links down there for that today.
Yeah. But even still, it's everywhere. It's all on. It's all on the website. Should you need it ASAP?
Awesome.
Did you want to just run? I don't want to put you on the spot very quickly about the. Because didn't you have a message about t-shirts?
Yeah, is it all right if I just jump in quickly?
Yeah, go.
Yep.
So after last week, I did have people messaging me, someone saying, could you send me just a piece of the front of the t-shirt and so on, which is fine. But ideally, if I can have the whole t-shirt, because I'm not quite sure yet whether all the pieces are going to be the same size or random sizes, and I may be able to use the back of the t-shirt as well. So ideally, it would be better if it could be the whole t-shirt, please.
Right. Okay.
Yandles.
Oh, yeah. And
Okay.
we'll be at Yandles at the show in 2 weeks' time, just under 2 weeks' time. So if anybody's going to be there and wants to bring their t-shirt with them, they can hit me up at the show.
Oh, save some postage. So if you're in the UK and you're going to the Yandle show, bring it with. That way you don't have to pay the postman. Cool. That's
Okay.
awesome, by the way, that you're doing that, Kat.
Well, since we are under an hour, I'm going to do my shout out.
Go
Right.
ahead.
So, plus it means more editing for Chris. So people that may remember the 1989 classic film with John Candy, Uncle Buck, may remember Macaulay Culkin's birthday breakfast of the giant pancakes. Well, this is a Maker video for all you food lovers out there and robotics lovers, because the channel Bringing with Babish,
Binging.
Binging, with Babish has recreated these pancakes with a giant robot. So yeah, I think you can go. I mean, he didn't really need a shout out because he's got 5 million subscribers, but I think this video got him there. Truth be told, because it's an awesome video. But he does all these sorts of videos, recreates famous meals and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's a great video.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I like binging
So
with that.
they actually go through the process of creating the robotics arms. Like it's one of them arms that build cars and things like that. That actually flips the pancakes, and yeah, it's great.
Awesome, Jamie. Richard, what's yours?
Well, just very quickly, basically because it's Disney, and you know me, Disney, and obviously Kat's here as well. It's a shout out to a maker. It is a maker video, but it's kind of like the Canadian version of the new release live action version of The Lion King from Pat Lap. If you haven't seen it, it's like 2 minutes long, and because it's one of Pat's videos, it's hilarious. So I'll say no more. Just go and watch it. It's amazing, very funny. Just beware that you can't unsee it.
Le Pic Bois on YouTube, aka the Woodpecker, and that video is absolutely hilarious. I don't mind telling you. So good call there, Richard.
Yeah.
Well, before I get to mine,
Like
ladies, do you have anybody that you want to shout out today? Or you don't have to. I mean, because we didn't tell you this was part of the the deal. But if you have something that you want to mention, feel free. If not, then just go. Nope, Chris, back to you.
Or shout yourselves out.
Yeah, there you go. Let's do that. Let's do that instead. So, Mackenzie, where can people find you?
On the Instagram or on Facebook.
Give me that Instagram handle one more time.
It's Mackaroo, MacKarou.
On Instagram. All right. Got it. Put you there. Heidi?
You can find me on Slap Stuff Together. It's pretty much Slap Stuff Together on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. There's a website. I also just started a second channel for showing like technique for throwing videos. It's called Whitehall_pottery on Instagram. So I'm posting like little tips and tricks and just kind of trying to avoid overwhelming the Slap Stuff Together channel with just straight pottery videos. So if you're interested in seeing that process and you are maybe wanting to dabble in it, you can head over to Whitehall Pottery.
Very cool. It's very cool. I love watching it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Kat, where can they find you?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram if you look for Hippynoodle. Don't bother looking for me on Twitter or YouTube because I am there, but I never post any kind of content anywhere, not for like a year or something. So yeah, Instagram and Facebook.
Got it.
And you got to give a shout out to Doggy Noodle as well.
Yes. Now that Doggy Noodle is able to update their exciting adventures, you can follow Doggy Noodle on Instagram as well.
All right. Well, I don't actually have a video shout out like Richard and Jamie. Mine is just a thank you to all the people that were at SWAT this weekend, the Southwest Association of Turners that happened in Waco, Texas. There were a number of videos that came out while that event was happening, and I'm sure there'll be some that come out even more. I just love watching videos where there's makers getting together and partying. And in that same vein, Steve Twidell and Leona Faye, they had their Irish maker meetup, and they were doing live streams on that, and that was just friggin' awesome too. So thank you so much for keeping us entertained, because if you can't be there, I guess that's the next best thing. But if I had to give a random nod, if I can for the moment seem like I'm not being a bit biased, then I have to tell Richard that I have really enjoyed your series that you're putting out, of the little short videos that you've put out, Richard, recently. I have. And I know that sounds weird because I'm actually complimenting you, but I think those are awesome, man. I really do. I like them.
Thank you.
It's going on. It's going to snow tonight now.
Yeah,
well, let's not spend too much time on that, because I mean, let's get over it fast.
Well, I'll tell you what, and I'm not going to apologise actually.
I knew I couldn't get over this.
If people want to send me little clips from of them saying how do I, then by all means do. I'm still getting them in, and for some reason, Jamie, a lot of wood turners have been sending me how do I clips as well. So I haven't put one out for nearly a week now. Originally, I wanted to do one every day in August, but I'm lazy and rubbish, and I didn't get around. Went to the seaside, yeah. So I think I managed 3 weeks, so bit off. But send more videos. There are more on the way. I've got, you probably can't see it in here, but there's like a board behind me where there's loads of things written up where I've got more coming out. So if you want to send a clip, then by all means, please do.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he just spent more time talking about what I asked him not to talk about than I actually spent talking about. Anyway, Richard, seriously, mate. I mean, I like the videos that you've been putting out. They're quick, they're short, they're to the point, and they're helpful. I mean, so good on you.
That was the idea, yeah.
Got it. Awesome.
Well, that's the way he does it. If you ever do it a different way, please leave the comments down below.
This is...
Okay.
Richard, get us out of this, please.
Yeah, I mean, that I think pretty much does wrap up the show. Like Chris said earlier, we're not going to solve this in one sitting. I mean, I'm not intelligent enough to solve this at all. I'm pretty sure that Jamie and Chris aren't either. Ladies, I won't even go there. But to everyone, if you are still listening, then thank you. Why? But if you're not, we will say what we like about you. I'm not sure if we're going to do a We're Not on Patreon free after party afterwards, because we're not on Patreon, but we might do. Who knows? If you want to find out whether we did or not and you're listening afterwards, you can come listen to us live on Sunday. Apart from that, y'all have a good week.
Have a great week, everybody. And thanks for coming today, ladies. Appreciate the enlightenment.
Thanks for having me.
See you later.
Bye.